All right, we are live. So today we got a fourplex in San Diego, California, 4934 West Loma Point, San Diego, California. What's the zip code? 92107. All right, purchase price 3,223,887. Listed for 3.5 million, but I'm guessing they lowered it because of what they need to do. 30K earnest money deposit, I'm guessing. 50 grand to the agent and 25 grand for the assign fee. Closing cost of 20 grand. Total entry 495. Okay. The sub-2 loan is 2.8 million. Principal, interest, tax, insurance is all of these listed out all together. That's going to be interesting. According to this, the market rents for a 3-bed is 4,500 and the market rents for a 2-bed is 3,000. So we're going to have to verify that. Moved first place a couple years ago, so I think we're okay. Common laundry and private balcony. Okay, 1 of 2 bedroom and 1 of 3 bedroom needs to be remodeled. I'm assuming they're thinking everybody else is okay. Let's see. So when I do this, my rehab estimates, I'm going to assume that these are my best looking units and these are my worst looking units. So I'm going to do a floor and paint on at least the entire place and just do flooring updates on half of the properties, just based on what I'm seeing right now from this property. Okay. Now in San Diego, and let me back up. The first step we want to understand is we want to figure out what is the rent ceiling that you would be able to charge for this property. In San Diego, I did the research for you. If you look up San Diego Housing Commission and you type in choice communities, how San Diego breaks down their rents is by zip code, but then they split it out into 3 categories. One is the choice communities, one is the enterprise communities, and the other is signature communities. How did it come up with the names? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We care about where our property is, and they labeled it by zip code, so 92107. And then they will say, by bedroom, by the community name, which is almost the same thing as by zip code. Our property is in enterprise communities, and you see that the rent ceiling right here is going to be, let me see, I can put this up over here. Yeah. The rent ceiling for a 3-bedroom is 3,472. And then the rent ceiling for a 2-bedroom is 2,470. That's almost $500 lower for a 2-bedroom and $1,000 lower than the 3-bedroom from what was listed by the wholesaler. Okay. So we're going to note these things down. And then after you get the rent ceilings, you're going to want to figure out what the market rents looks like. So when you plug in the address on affordablehousing.com, let's see what the average rents looks like for a 2-bedroom and a 3. Okay. The number you care most about when researching the rents in the market is going to be this number on the far right. And it says that, hey, on average for 23 units within a 0.23 mile radius, the average rent is $3,200. Oh, that's pretty high, right? That's pretty high. You might actually want to do this on market rent instead of Section 8 rents. Well, let me just make it exactly. 3178, 3222, 320, excuse me. And then this is 3055. Okay. Well, now this is rents for a 2-bedroom. And that was within a 0.23 mile radius. 0.23 mile radius. Now I'm going to do the rents for a 3-bedroom. And again, I'm looking for the numbers on the far right. 4,287. 4,287. That's pretty high. 3,896. And now you're really close to the ocean front. So who knows if that's really a very accurate number. 4,376. Okay. Now my rent ceiling is 3,472. It's an enterprise community, right? 3,472. And I got that from just looking at the map and knowing that my zip code is right here in this purple area called enterprise communities. And that's how I got the rent ceiling for this. Whenever you want to do the research for any housing authority at all, just type in the city or the county and just type in housing authority. And sometimes you might want to type in payment standards or fair market rents, whatever you want to call it. Okay. All right. Now that we have all these numbers, typically I would do a street drive-by. I know this area really well because I live in San Diego myself, but you're pretty close to the water, but it's also very dense. That's why parking is very, very important if you want people to stay at your home and lower your vacancy. But I drive this all the time because this is an ocean beach and there's like a big dog park area that I bring my dog to. Now, what I cared about is that it was not in a flood zone, which is kind of surprising actually because it's so close to the court. I mean, the ocean, but it's not in a flood zone. So I'm gonna assume I'm okay there. No red flags jumping out at me. So now I'm ready to plug in my purchase price. I'm gonna bring in my purchase price here on the far right. And if you want to watch the full screen version, just go to youtube.com/@Kent_HE and you can see the full version. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm plugging on a number 3223887 is the purchase price. Now we talked about a rehab calculator, right? We're just gonna plug in all of the. I got $1,500 set aside for the roof in case there's some patching need to do, some landscaping stuff to keep the outdoors pristine. This is $4,440. So I'm gonna assume I need to repaint the whole place, or at the very minimum, have that as just a hedge. Even if I go in there and it looks brand new and I don't need to paint, which I doubt, but that's okay. 4440 divided by 2, and I'm assuming you replace the flooring on half of the property. Okay. Now, do I need to upgrade one of the kitchens? Let's see. How do the kitchens look? This kitchen looks great. This bathroom looks great. They're probably like Airbnb-ing that out or something like that. This kitchen needs some love. It just looks a little. Just needs a little bit some color and a little bit better flooring, like a light wood flooring to go with the San Diego vibe, like this light wood. That's what I would do. This is a tired bathroom, so I'm going to assume I need to renovate 2 bathrooms and 2 kitchens. I'll just call it 2 kitchens for 10 grand each, 10.5K each. I'm going to do 2 bathrooms for 8K each. That's all I'm going to need. I'm going to assume I need to replace 2 water heaters just to be safe. And I got 1,000. I don't need any termite issues because usually in California, when there's any termite issues, the seller has to pay for it. So max, my renovation for this 4-plex is 90 grand to get to maximum rents. Okay. Now, my monthly income rents. First, I'm going to do this property using Section 8 rents, which means that I'm going to assume that there are 2 units. So 2470 times 2 equals 2470 times 2. I'm going to plus 2 3-bedrooms, 3472. And the reason I'm using this maximum rent right now is because my market rents are clearly above it based on what I saw on affordablehousing.com. Okay. Where did the number go? There it is. 11,884 is the rent for each month. Okay. Now I want to plug in my PITI. Mortgage subto balance is 2,822,887. Plug in this loan. 2,822,887. What a hefty mortgage. But the mortgage interest rate is 2.375, which sounds great, right? 2.375. Sounds like a steal, but you never know, right? All right, I'm gonna assume it was started 7/1/2021. I'm not gonna bother with these numbers. So in order for me to back into what my total PITI is, I'm gonna do equals the numbers that they gave me. So that is gonna be, whoops, let me plug this over here. It's a little bit easier for all of you to kind of see if I do it this way. All right. So the whole point is not to be exact, but to just simply decide whether or not it's worth my time to investigate in this deal further. So it says that the principal is $5,991 for the payment every single month, disclosed by the wholesaler. $5,423 is the interest portion, and then my taxes and insurance is $1,867. So now that I have all the numbers, I'm gonna subtract the principal, and then I'm gonna subtract the interest. All right. There is no seller finance portion. So that helps me back into the property taxes and insurance number at 2309.78. And then I'm going to assume that the insurance is going to be at least $100 more per month because I'm assuming maybe it was a primary residence loan that was on there. Maybe they were living in one of the 4-plexes. So I'm going to assume the insurance is going to go up because it has gone up significantly for my personal primary residence insurance. It went up by almost like 50% this year in California. Kind of wild, but that's okay. All right. So for maintenance, I'm going to set aside 10% every single month for maintenance. I'm going to have 8% for property management. And I'm going to have 5% for my vacancy because you have fourplex and sometimes people just move out every 2 to 3 years, right? Now, what does this result? This results, wait, let me plug in my assignment fee. So we got 50 grand for the agent's fee, plus another $25,000 for the assignment fee. I'm going to lower the closing costs to just 2%. No, I'm doing 1% actually. Because I think 2% is really high, just because given what the purchase price is. I got 32 grand for closing costs, which is 12 grand higher. That's okay. Just have a little bit of buffer. And this is why this deal doesn't cash flow. Assuming using Section 8 rents. Okay, so let's just do Section 8 rent. Bedroom, or let's do exit. Section 8 rents. If we only do Section 8 rents, my total rent right now is going to be equals 11,884. At 11,884, if you're buying a property for 3.2 million, I'm assuming this is happening because this person's falling behind, or this Airbnb is not doing as well as he thought it was. You're losing negative $4,000 as a long-term rental, negative 21.6%. Now, even though it sounded like great, right? It was a sub-2 deal with a 2.375% interest rate. Do you really have $4,000 to reach into your pocket every single month to keep this project going? I don't know. I know I don't want to lose $4,000 a month on this. I was assuming a $92,000 rehab. So let's go ahead and assume I can get the average rent for this fourplex. Okay. Now, if I get the average rent for this fourplex, just using this number right here, 3196 and 4287. Let's do 3196. Update the rent there, 3196. And then if I do 4287 based on affordablehousing.com, 3196, 4287. My total right now is 14,966. Okay. What does that make my cash flow? Now I'm doing market rents, right? I'm just typing out these scenarios for all of you. Cash flow is now going to be negative 1857 a month. And it's going to negative 9.5% cash and cash return. Again, this was 3223.87, the $92,000 rehab. So in both of these scenarios, you're losing a significant amount of money. Even if you use quote unquote the best case scenario, you're still losing money. Now, could you say, okay, what if I self-manage it and now I don't have to deal with this $1,200 property management? Sure, but I think we all are on the same page that we got into real estate for financial freedom, freedom of time. And if you are not familiar with how stringent landlord-tenant laws are in California, you might not want to take on this property management stuff all on your own because you might really struggle if you have one problematic tenant. You can't evict them, or you evict them, you have to pay a hefty penalty nowadays in California based on the law. So for this property, if it was break even, you might get some biters because they will say, well, if I could just break even and not lose money, I know that San Diego is going up every single year, and there's potential that eventually I can get 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand of appreciation every single year. If you say, hey, I'm losing 2 grand a month, that's 24 grand a year, but then I'm going to gain 100 grand of appreciation, right? That's why you might have different exit strategies, and people will have different ways of approaching these deals. A deal that might not be a deal for you might be a deal for them. Because someone will say, well, I don't care about making $100 a month on a single family home. I'm trying to make real wealth, and real wealth comes from appreciation. I need these homes to go up 5, 10% every single year, because 10% on, well, let's just say, 10% on 3.2 million, that's 320 grand a year. That will more than outweigh your negative 2 grand of cash flow a month, right? And then if you also live in one of these units, now it's a primary residence property. And if you sell in 5 years, you don't have to pay any capital gains tax on your investment, because you live there as a prime residence if you're a married jointly filing taxpayer. So these are all the different scenarios that you have to go through, right? This is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this deal. I'm simply showing you the work that I'm doing every single day, and that's it. In order for you to decide whether or not something is a deal, well, you have to develop your own criteria, understand what a deal looks like to you, and then determine the steps for you to arrive at that criteria. You need to understand what your assumptions are for maintenance, what your assumptions are for property management, and most important, do you have the team locally on hand to execute on your projects? Because why go for a 5% cash and cash deal or a 10% cash and cash deal when you face execution risk? Meaning, hey, what if the project gets delayed? What if your holding cost gets astronomically higher because of delays in permits or whatever, or a contractor walks off on your job? You might just be better off investing in a 5% money market deal, right? With less headache. So you have to understand investors out there all have different criteria on what they prioritize. And I can't stress enough for all of us to always ask our investors, what is it that they care about? Do they care more about not losing money? Do they care about maximizing the returns? Because I'm honest. I tell some of the folks that I've talked to, I am not your guy if you're trying to maximize your returns. I'm looking for people that want to make impact with their money, do good while doing good. And most importantly, if you really just want to maximize returns, I just tell them to go buy Bitcoin. Not investment advice, right? But Bitcoin has been skyrocketing. So if that's really your goal at the end of the day, then not every investor is going to be the right investor for you. And I'm saying all this because you will decide what your crowd and your tribe looks like. But the work that leads to that step involves underwriting deals every single day. For you to be confident in your own deal, you have to look back at the evidence that you know what you're doing. Even if you have no confidence in yourself, then at least you will have the evidence to prove to yourself, like, hey, I probably know what I'm doing. If I just analyze deals for 18 minutes a day for 365 days a year, I will be better at underwriting deals than 95% of the world. That's what consistency means, and that's how it compounds over time. And all I'm asking from everybody that's listening today is just analyze the same deal I looked at just now. Copy my homework. Use the same spreadsheet and just DM me your email at investwithkenthe on Instagram. You want a copy of the spreadsheet. I've been very fortunate and blessed to have been given spreadsheets by other folks, and I just modified it based on my own standards. So that's it. That's all I'm doing. But you can copy my homework, put it on your own YouTube channel, and just take it as your own work. Jacob, you're so funny. Let me know what's good. What's good with your Bitcoin, man. And that's it. So when you reflect back and look back, hey, maybe you have a partner that will ask you, Jacob, why do you think this is a deal? Well, at that point in time, you can point them to your own YouTube channel and say, I know this is a deal because I looked at the past 155 deals and they were all not deals. How do you analyze 155 deals? I have 155 lives on my YouTube channel right now. You can do that in a third of the time. You do that in 50 days. You just take 3 of those every single day and put it on your own YouTube channel. And if you're shy, just put it as unlisted on your own YouTube channel. If you do that, you don't have to worry about the whole world seeing it. But when the time comes, you can share your partners. You can prove to yourself, hey, I know what I'm doing. I got this stack of analysis on my YouTube channel. In order for you to buy 100 deals, you probably have to analyze 1,000 of them. And this is just the uncool, unsexy part of real estate. You have to be able to analyze a deal, because how else will you have the confidence to pull the trigger? If a deal came across your table and slapped you across the face, are you gonna know that's a deal? It's all up to you. So I'm hoping I can relieve a little bit of the fear, relieve a little bit of anxiety, because sometimes we're scared because we don't know what options are there. If you've ever been the type of person to say, hey, I just want to help people. Well, think a little bit more about who do you want to help and how do you want to help them? I chose affordable housing. I don't usually speculate. I like cash flow. This seems very risky to me, especially with California landlord. It'll work for someone though. Yeah, that's why I usually don't look at California deals, but I have a friend that's looking at for a fourplex in California. So I said, okay, let me just underwrite this deal and at least understand what's going on there. And sometimes when you see a sub-2 deal with a 2.375% interest rate, sometimes people like, oh, that's a really good deal with 2.3% money. But think about it, right? Usually there's always something about it that isn't as attractive. But for some people, it might be a deal, especially if you're living there. Then maybe you're paying the mortgage down by losing $2,000, quote unquote, losing $1,800 a month. But really, you're paying that towards your own mortgage. So is that a real loss? I don't know. But if you live there and now it goes to 500 grand in 3, 5, 10 years, you might not have to pay any taxes on it. And that might set you up for a great house hacking base and a foundation that allows you to build really incredible wealth. So, hey, thank you so much for tuning into the live, everybody. I so appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for supporting the Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing podcast. If you guys ever have any good landlords that are not slumlords investing in affordable housing, that's Section 8 single family home investors, multifamily to ground up construction, please send them along my way. I would love to bring them onto the podcast. If any of you ever have questions that you wish I would have asked someone on the podcast, please also DM me or leave a comment in YouTube videos. I would really appreciate that. I can't stress enough. I started a podcast and I was so nervous in the beginning. I had the greatest imposter syndrome. I started a podcast before I ever had any affordable housing rentals, right? I started a podcast on affordable housing before I ever had any affordable housing rentals. But it wasn't until I realized that, hey, my job is not to brag and boast about myself. My job is to, one, build up the brand of my guests, thank them for investing in affordable housing. Because seriously, without people like them, I would never have the home I grew up in. And then secondarily is to ask questions on behalf of all of you, because I remember how scared I was when I started. I didn't know what was the deal. I didn't know who I was going to hire. I didn't know when that contractor was going to run circles around me. That's why just 2 weeks ago, I brought on a contractor from Overland Park. And you guys seen some of the latest rankings. Like Overland Park, Kansas is the number 2 happiest cities in the United States to live in. So I brought on a contractor on there who used to be a Section 8 inspector himself. I'm not saying that's going to be the best contractor or the contractor you should use or his past performance is any indication of his future performance, but at least it gives you one step to take. And when you take one step, usually the next step reveals itself to you. When you get one bid from a contractor, then you're going to say, okay, I know how this person bids. Let me go talk to another contractor now. Or maybe I want to GC it. Let me go talk to my own flooring guy, my own plumber, my own painter, and aggregate all the costs and see what it really costs. So I know what this GC is making on their markup. See how that happened? If you get one quote, it usually the next step reveals itself to you. And hopefully that makes everything a little bit less scary for all of you. That's my goal. Just because I share a contractor and his or her information with all of you does not mean that's one less project for me. This is the meaning of the abundance mindset. There are folks out there that would say, I can't share my realtor or I can't share my contractor simply because, well, if I give away my contractor, then they don't have time to do my projects. That is the scarcity mindset. So please, in order for this community to thrive, we have to share resources with one another, share our learnings with one another, because this is the only way we're going to solve this affordable housing problem together. And this opportunity is so massive. It's so huge. There's enough for everybody. Every day you can read on the news and there is something about the lack of affordable housing. So please trust me. There is so much in this world for all of us. There's so much opportunity in here and we get to help people at the same time while doing good for ourselves and our family. Thank you so much for listening today. Hey, have an amazing Sunday, everybody. We're going to be back here doing this live again tomorrow for day 155. So let's keep this going, all right? Have an amazing day, everybody. I hope you spend some quality time with your family and friends today, and I'll catch you tomorrow.